All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning, May the 17th, 2021, and I hope you're having a beautiful morning. I love that song, Just Hold On, the King is Surely Coming, and I love that trumpet closing by Ren Collective. Anyway, well, good morning to everybody. I hope you're doing well. Let me say good morning to my mom. Hey, Mama, I love you. I hope you're doing well this morning. Good morning to John and Wendy. Good morning to buenos dias to Elva and to Pat and Lori. And good morning to Richard and Ellen. It's good to see you guys. And to Steve, good to have Shalom. Steve, we're praying for you, buddy. And continuing to pray for you for your surgery this coming Thursday or Wednesday, I remember. Good morning to Elizabeth and to Jesse and Salome and Philip. And good morning to Jim and Sarah and Nicole and to Jerry and Janet from Mingus Mountain. Is that a different place, or is that the specific mountain you live on? It's kind of an interesting name for a mountain, Mingus Mountain. All right, and good morning to Ron and Amy. And let's see here. Oh, may not be Wednesday, I see. So Steve's surgery. We'll continue praying for you, Steve, when your procedure comes. And good morning to, or good evening to Dayspring. And let's see, and we've got Charlene in Texas. Good to have you back, Charlene. And to Jessica and Mignon and Rashad. Good morning, you guys. All right, and let me pop over here. Say good morning. Hey, oops, that's the wrong one. I went to the wrong. Saying good morning to Barbara, which I'll say good morning to Barbara Callahan anyway, but it brought up Saturday's service. All right, and good morning to oh, why did that happen? All right, and good morning to Deanna and to Kathleen. All right, and Pastor and Sister Martinez. There you guys are. All right. Well, hey, we're in the 8th of the 8 visions that open up the book of Zechariah, in Zechariah chapter 6. And I saw Dayspring is excited about chapter 6, and it's a vision that has a lot of it is exciting, and yet you're like, I hope I don't disappoint you, because there's so much. We're trying to say, hey, what's going on here and what's there, so let's read it, and then we'll go through it verse by verse. Zechariah chapter 6 verse 1. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I hope I don't disappoint, because these are all very at times, when you get into visions, the biblical, some of the prophecies are nice, and we're at a point where we can see them, where all they're nicely, clearly painted out, especially when you're on the other side of some of them. But it's fun to dig through the scriptures together and to hear what the word of the Lord is. Again, I lifted up my eyes, and behold, I saw 4 chariots emerging from between the 2 mountains of bronze. The first chariot had red horses, the second chariot black horses, the third chariot white horses, and the fourth chariot had, it says, strong dapple horses. It says horses that were spotted, and then the final word there is strong. So we don't know if that strong applies simply to the fourth chariot or to all of the horses altogether. Verse 4, then I responded by saying to the angel speaking with me, what are these, my Lord? The angel answered me, saying, these are the 4 winds of heaven that go forth from the presence of the Lord of all the earth. The chariot with the black horses is going to the land of the north, and the white ones have gone out after them, but the dappled or spotted ones have gone out to the land of the south. When the strong ones went out, they requested to go to walk throughout the earth. He said, go, walk throughout the earth. So they walked throughout the earth. Then he called and spoke to me, saying, look, those going toward the land of the north have given rest to my ruach in the north country. Okay, so verse 1 says, and again I lifted up my eyes, and behold, I saw 4 chariots emerging from, or coming forth right? You saw it coming forth from between the two mountains. And the mountains were mountains of bronze, or could be mountains of copper or brass. So this, when you first read this vision, right, and he sees these 4 chariots. Now, it does immediately, as being the last of the 8 vision, it does draw us back to that first vision. And so I want to reread the first vision. Of course, here we have chariots, and there we had horses with riders. And so let's look back at that first vision, Zechariah 1, verses 8 through 15. Because, again, they both use the various colored horses, and there's this language of walking to and fro the earth, patrolling the earth, that's used both in chapter 1 and then here. It ties these two sort of as the opening and closing of all of these visions. In the night I saw, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse was standing among the myrtle trees that were in the ravine. And again, if you weren't with us, the myrtle is representative of Israel. And it says in the depths, so in the ravine, but in the depths. So there's a man riding on a red horse among the myrtle trees that were in the depths. And behold, behind him were red, sorrel, or like spotted, and white horses. Then I asked, "What are these, my Lord?" Now the angel speaking with me said, "I will show you what these are." Then the man standing among the myrtle trees answered and said, "These are the ones Adonai has sent to walk back and forth throughout the earth." They answered the angel of Adonai who stood among the myrtle trees, saying, "We have walked throughout the earth, and behold, all the earth sits quietly and it's still." And you'll remember when we talked about that it's saying, hey, everything's peaceful, everything's at rest, the whole earth is at rest. And in one sense, this is like, well, when, Lord, everybody seems to be doing okay, and we're waiting for you to intervene in this world. At the end of the book of Haggai, the Lord says that he's going to shake the nations, that there's going to be upheaval. And so these that are patrolling the earth come with the message that says, and the angel of the Lord, they give this message to the angel of the Lord, to the Malach Adonai, the messenger of Adonai, saying, all the earth is quiet and at rest and still. So now the angel of the Lord now intercedes on behalf of Israel. The angel of Adonai answered and said, Adonai Tzevaot, how long will you withhold compassion on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah with whom you have been angry for 70 years? Adonai answered the angel who was speaking to me with pleasant, comforting words, or words that were good and words that were comforting, consoling words. Then the angel speaking to me said, cry out, thus says Adonai Tzevaot, I am exceedingly zealous for Jerusalem and for Zion, and I am infuriated with the haughty nations. I was a little angry with them, but they furthered their own calamity. Okay, so you've got this contrast now. You had the horses, the colored horses, and the rider on the red horse. And the angel of the Lord is interceding on behalf of Israel, who's saying, how come everything's so quiet and still? And says, don't think the Lord has forgotten. He brought good and comforting words, saying, I am zealous for Zion, and I am going to bring justice. And so we see that this over the visions that have followed spelled out. But you see in the first you've got just horses. Here you have chariots, and so you have this kind of contrast between the beginning of the mission and the completion of the mission. You have this picture now that there's the picture at the beginning has one of those who have been doing reconnaissance. They're walking, looking at the situation, right? And they come back with a report. And there's a sense of secrecy. You're meeting he sees a man in the trees and they're having this conversation. But now in this eighth vision, there's not that sense of like secrecy. What he sees now coming forth from between these two mountains are are chariots driven by now multiples of these horses, right? I mean, you have a horse with a rider in in the first one. But here now you have them coming forth. There's the reconnaissance forces have now become, now you have military teams, forces ready for battle. And so then they're coming forth from between the two mountains. And what are the two mountains? Well, the two mountains really point to the residence of God. It's like, the gateway to the house of the Lord, a gateway to God's presence. And we get that, we see that from verse 5 when it says they were coming forth from before those who stand before the Lord of all the earth. So they're coming forth from the presence of the Lord. And so you have these two mountains, and it says that they're two bronze mountains. One commentator, Barron, he writes this. He says, we gather that the mountains are associated with the presence or the special dwelling place of the Lord of the whole earth, and that he says that these mountains are probably like Mount Zion and Mount Olivet. So, and of course, there's this picture later in Zechariah of the splitting of the mountains. But there's probably Mount Zion and Mount Olivet, which would be the valley that runs between those two mountains, is the valley of Jehoshaphat, which Jehoshaphat means has the name of God. And then Shaphat, which is from Mishpat, God, the justice or the judgment of God, God's judgment or his justice coming forth. His judgment rolls like a river, as it were, from between these two valleys. And so that's possibly the picture at hand. And the bronze or the gold can be a couple of things, sort of like when the sun is rising. We sing City of Gold about Jerusalem, though that's different. But the sun that's hitting off of these mountains, and the bronze or the copper or the brass, whichever was used, is a picture of strength. It symbolized something that was impregnable. We use the phrase when the heavens are brass, right? When nothing's coming through, they're impregnable. And so that's probably the significance of the vision that no one's going to be able to take God's heavenly dwelling by storm. It's a place of strength that God sends forth his chariots from, and you couldn't on your own. We can't penetrate into his presence. These are mountains of brass or mountains of bronze and copper. So the first, verse 2, the first chariot had red horses. The second chariot, black horses. The third chariot, white horses. And the fourth chariot, horses that were speckled and strong, amutzim. And so there are some, it's an unusual word in terms of some say that this is a color. Amutzim is a color, but ametz means strong. And so these are strong horses. And so the idea, there's nothing strange about any of the colors, right? I mean, you have the red horses are like earth colored horses. They're red horses. The word there is sounds like it's adumim. So it's like dirt. And then you've got the black horses, the white horses, and then the speckled, or the strong horses. And the final word is strong. So the idea possibly, some say, well, it's the strong horses, or is just the fourth one, or that these are all, they're pulling chariots. So these are all now mighty horses. These are horses going into battle. And then, we'll get there. Sorry. And later it does say all the horses were strong, although that's part of the translation. Okay, so now, again, we looked at this. I'm going to just jump forward to passages that jump into our minds that, of course, wouldn't have jumped into the minds of the readers at this time because the book of Revelation hadn't been written. But we read in Revelation 6 about the horses. Now, it's not about chariots, but it says, I looked and behold, there was a white horse. Now, there's no, and the one riding on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out as a conqueror so he might conquer. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second creature saying, "Come." Then another horse came out, fiery red. The one riding on it was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people would slaughter one another. He was given a great sword. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, "Come." And behold, I saw a black horse. The one riding on it held a balance scale in his hand. Then I heard something like a voice in the midst of the four creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, but do no harm to the oil and wine." And we can't get into all of that, but that's about that fourth horse is famine. And then comes the pale horse, which is death. So you have this picture of these 4 horses, and we'll see now we've got the 4 chariots, and we had the 4 horsemen of the opening chapter that are patrolling the earth. So Zechariah sees all the horses of the different colors. They're strong. It says, verse 4, then I responded by saying to the angel speaking with me, "What are these, my Lord?" Verse 5, the angel answered me, saying, "These are the 4 winds of heaven." So these are Arba, 4 Ruchot Hashemayim. These are the 4 winds. And of course, Ruchot has to do with its wind or breath or spirit. It can be 4 winds of heaven, 4 spirits of heaven that go forth from the presence of the Lord of all the earth. And it uses the word presence. Typically, the presence of the Lord is listed as is the language before the face of the Lord, Panayim. But here it uses the going forth from the Mehit-Yatsev, which is those standing, the standing ones, those who are basically standing before to serve the Lord. So it's going forth from this picture of from the heavenly council, from God's divine council, from his, so therefore you can make the jump to say from the presence of the Lord. So you have the 4 winds of heaven going forth from the presence of the Lord. So the 4, what are these 4 chariots? These are the 4 winds of heaven, the 4 spirits of the heavens, going forth from those standing before the Lord of all the earth, from those who serve the Lord of all the earth. So we already have encountered the 4 winds of heaven back in chapter 2. So there's several places now in Scripture, and we need to take a glimpse at them this morning where we see the 4 winds of heaven. But the starting point for us would be in the same book, right, in Zechariah 2, we'll start from verse 7, where God is calling the exiles to leave the land of the north, right, to leave the land of exile. Then behold, the angel speaking with me left, and another angel went out to meet him, saying to him, "Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem will be inhabited as a village without walls because of the great number of men and livestock in it. For I, declares Adonai, will be a wall of fire around it, and I will be the glory inside it." Verse 10, "Oi, oi, flee from or escape from or be delivered from the land of the north, declares Adonai, because I scattered you like the 4 winds of heaven, declares Adonai. Oi, Zion, escape, you who are living with the daughter of Babylon." So the 4 winds of heaven, he said, I scattered you like or as the 4 winds of heaven, in every direction would be the picture there. But it is also this picture of God's judgment going forth. The 4 winds of heaven going forth as God's judgment. So you have between the 2 mountains coming forth the 4 horses coming through the valley of valley of Jehoshaphat. The Lord is my judge, or the Lord is the justice of the Lord, coming forth now on chariots. What are these? These are the 4 winds. These are coming forth from those standing that serve the Lord. God is sending them forth. So no longer are they doing reconnaissance, but now going forth on chariots. There is action. Things are on the move. There's the image in Jeremiah 49, which we're not going to look at. I'll make mention of it, where it's the prophecy concerning Elam. You know, when the Lord is dealing with all these different nations, and He calls the 4 winds from the 4 ends of the heavens against Elam to scatter them to all of these winds. And so you have a picture there of kind of the winnowing of grain, where he throws it up and the wind scatters them. And so the four winds can, of course, symbolize the 4 points of the compass, the four extremities, every direction. We also have the four winds mentioned in Ezekiel, a very famous passage, right? In Ezekiel 37:9, the prophet is instructed to command the wind to come from the four winds and blow or breathe life into the dry bones, what would have been seen as in Ezekiel as exilic Israel, but those who where it seems that God's purposes are dead and finished, that God is not done. And he said, say to me, Ezekiel 37:9, prophesy to the wind or to the ruach. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the ruach, thus says Adonai Elohim, come from the four winds, ruach, breathe upon these slain, that they may live. We also see in Daniel, we're just going to look in Daniel chapter 8, the four winds are mentioned, but in Daniel 11, we read Daniel 11:3 and 4. It says, then a mighty king, which if you back up in that passage, you're going to know that this mighty king is referring to Alexander the Great. He's the king from Greece. It says, then a mighty king will arise, who will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. But as soon as he has arisen, his kingdom will be broken up and distributed to the four winds of heaven, though it will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the authority he exercised, for his kingdom will be uprooted and given to others besides these. So it'll be distributed to the four winds of heaven, again, pointing in every direction. But these winds, the ones we see here, these chariots, are not just random winds. These winds, he said, I turned around and I looked, and behold, coming from between these two bronze mountains, here in verse 5, from the very presence of God are these chariots, and and they are the four winds of the heavens. There are some passages that instead of translating these as the four winds, we'll translate them as the four spirits, which might sound strange, but it's because they're sent forth from the Lord. Psalm 104:4. Now I'm reading this one from the NASV, where it says, he makes the winds his messengers. He makes the winds his messengers. Malachai v'ruchot. I think in the TLV it says like he makes his angels spirits. He makes his angels spirits, but angels and messengers is the same word. Wind and spirit is the same word. So the idea is God, when he sends forth the wind, the wind function as his messengers, as his malach, as his angels, and so there's two ideas there, in that he's sending forth spirits as his messengers, and sending forth the wind as his messengers. So there are those that can translate this being that they are the four spirits. These winds are going out from standing in the presence of the Lord of the whole earth. So the term for standing here is used for someone who's stationed at a post. I mean, whether it's used for Miriam watching over Moses when he's going down the river, it's used for a prophet standing, and when Habakkuk says, I'm going to stand and wait for your word. But the picture really here, the way the language is constructed, it aligns more with what you read in the book of Job. Job 1:6 and 2:1, where angels present themselves before God. So these winds are coming forth from the heavenly council, from the council of the Lord. Now, I'm going to jump forward here again to a passage that wouldn't have been in their minds, that I can't expand upon too much this morning. We don't have the time for it, but it does draw my mind to Revelation 7. Revelation 7:1 says, after this I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth, so that no wind would blow on the earth or on the sea or against any tree. And then I saw another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. The east would typically be representative of the of the temple, of the place of God's dwelling. Then I saw another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. He cried out with a loud voice to the 4 angels who were permitted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, "Do no harm to the earth or the sea or the trees until we have put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God." Now I heard the number of those marked with the seal, 144,000 from every tribe of Bnei Israel. So here's where, in terms of, we see the 4 winds and the 4 winds of judgment, but they're held back until God has sealed the whole of his people. And when you go through the 144,000, it lists the tribes in a way that is not typical. And so I can't go into all that. So it's more representative of the entirety of the whole of God's people than being a literal 144,000, 12,000 from the 12 tribes. But again, the tribes are listed differently. Like Joseph is listed and Levi is listed, which is unusual. So and again, just in case you didn't get this, the seal, there's a marking. He puts a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God, something that God can see. And so later, when you in Revelation, not to jump on that, but when people talk about the mark of the beast, they're talking about the mark of the rule of this world and of the nations of this world. There's a marking, there's a something that identifies them as sealed, as having been identified by the kingdoms of this world, and they stand in contrast. Those who have been sealed by God, something, and those who are marked by the number of man that falls short. But that's another story for another day. We continue, verse 6. Now the chariot with the black horses is going to the land of the north, and the white ones have gone out after them. Now, after them, the white ones, it can also, the word there is acharechem, which can be behind them, but it also means to the west. To the west, because after is the west is where the sun sets, and so it's a language that's used also to describe the west. So this could be saying to the west, that the white ones, so the black horses going to the land of the north, the white ones have gone out after them or have gone to the west, but the spotted ones have gone to the land of the south. Right? So you've got the destinations of the various horses, except one. Right? The red horses aren't mentioned, nor is the east mentioned. So we don't, there's a lot of, oh my goodness, like discussion over this, and people, there are those that say, because in the next verse where it talks about when the strong ones went out, they want to take the word strong and say, actually, if you change a couple letters, they make a little change here, that actually is the red ones. But there's no manuscript evidence to suggest that was ever the red ones. So the red ones, we're not given the significance of the red, the black, the white, the spotted, and not here. Only later in Revelation. So we're not given the significance of the different colors. But the red ones and the east don't seem to go forth yet. And so verse 7 then says, when the strong ones went out, they requested to go to walk throughout, which is like to patrol. And when they requested, it's the word like that you would say, please, bavakasha. And vakashu, they ask, their desire was, they wanted to patrol the earth, to go to walk throughout the earth. He said, go, lehu, go, walk throughout the earth. So they walked throughout the earth. So what you see here in verse 7 is sort of the eagerness of the chariots, of these chariot teams to accomplish their mission. They're like, can we go? They've asked to walk throughout the earth. And these are powerful horses. They're ready to go. Remember in the first vision, the word was everything's quiet and silent. And the angel of the Lord said, how long? Adonai Tzevaot, Lord of armies, Lord of hosts, how long? And so now we have in this closing vision, can we go? They're chomping at their horses. They're literally chomping at the bit, right? Chomping at the bit to go patrol, to go in, to walk patrolling through the whole earth. And he said, go. And so they went. So these are two visions. It uses that same language of going throughout the earth that are connected. Again, in that first vision, there's one of its kind of secrecy in the myrtle trees, what's going on. Now, coming forth from gold, brass mountains, and saying, can we go? And he said, go. So they went. So they have gone throughout the earth. And that there's this comforting promise. The Lord gave words of comfort and good words at the beginning, and those are becoming a reality in this final vision. The affairs, the things of the world are under, that God is, he is in control, that he is, nothing can move without him saying, you can go. That he is the one who holds the times and who holds the seasons in his hands. It's all under God's sovereignty. Verse 8. Then he called, and the calling here is, he called me, and it's a summoning. It's a calling to arms. He cried out, basically. It's a word that's used with an urgency, summoning war, calling for repentance, crying for help. So it says, then he called, or he cried to me and spoke to me, saying, look, those going toward the land of the north, right? So the black horses going toward the land of the north, have given rest to my ruach in the north country. So we've seen that the spotted horse, the black horses are going north, the white horses are going south, the spot horses are going west. The red horses, I guess they're staying put in the east, not going forth at this point. But the black horses, because there's something more that is still to happen. The black horses are going north. This is to the place of Babylon, where the Lord earlier had said, escape, flee, right? And so they're going, so them going to the land of the north is now, it's basically, it's reminding us that everything that's happening is what the Lord had said, what he said through Daniel, what he said, that the collapse of the Babylonian Empire under the Persians, this first, the horse going to the north, this collapse is under, it was the work of the Lord. It wasn't the work of the Medes and Persians, it was the work of the Lord. That the Lord sent forth the horse. So some think that possibly, in terms of, real quick, let me back up, in terms of the four horses, that they could also correspond to the four winds being dealing with the four, remember we talked about the four horns and the four craftsmen that take down the horns, and that there would be this same picture here, these four nations, so Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and then the Roman Empire, so that the one wind takes down Babylon, the next wind would take down Persia, the next wind would take down Greece, and then the next one taking down Rome, and that one standing. So some people have speculated that red horse, in one sense, in this, because he's going to talk about the branch that's going to, in the rest of chapter 6, he's going to talk about my servant, the branch that's going to go forth. And so it could be that the fourth that's not yet moving is the work of Messiah. But he says that the Lord says, they have given my ruach rest, or have given him, given my ruach nuach, which is rest, or to settle and get relief from. And based on the way, if you look in Jeremiah 49, I'll just read this. It says,
what is it being referred to here? A clue is offered by another passage that speaks of the four winds, Jeremiah 49, 36, and 37. There too, God uses the four winds to enact judgment. In 49:37, the mission of judgment is linked to his fierce anger. So it's interesting that ruach can be used to signify anger. So the idea here is possibly that this is going forth to give rest to his wrath in the north. So he's bringing judgment upon Babylon, as he said that he would. And so that's what's in view here. So you've got this reminder. It's just that, hey, as you go forward in what God is calling you to do, again, Haggai and Zechariah are working in tandem to encourage the people to go forward in the work of constructing the temple, though it's small, though it's the day of small beginnings, that God is at work, and that what he started, he's going to finish, and that it's all, he gives the directive. So he's given the directive now to Zerubbabel, right? Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. What are you, mighty mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you'll become level ground. You'll become a plain. Go forward in the work that God has called you to do. Go forward in what he's called you to do, and know that he has a good word and a comforting word for his people. And so this was the concluding vision of these 8 visions, and then we'll continue on into the rest of chapter 6 tomorrow. All right. Well, let me say good morning to anybody that I may have missed as we started. Looks like, hey, there's the Eddies. Good to see you guys. Lauren and Levi and Valor and Haven and Everett. Good morning, you guys. And I think everybody else was already on. Let's see. Oh, good morning to Misty. Hey, Misty. How you doing? And I think that's everybody. All right. So, hey, listen, just a reminder that you can, as we end here, it's Monday, so we have our overflow time. So if you want to join on the Zoom call for about a half hour or so, and we can talk and we can talk about whatever, just touch base. It's nice to see each other's faces. If you have questions or have thoughts or things you want to share, that's nice to be able to do. So if you look in the description, our post-Manna Overflow the link is there on Zoom, and hope to see you there. All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.